What's going on, everybody? Today I am going to make with you the turkey, bacon, egg, and potato bake from my cookbook, the Meal Prep Queen's Cookbook, which is found on page 19. Come along with me. So the first thing I did here is I gathered all of my ingredients and supplies, which I'm going to show you. Today, instead of using turkey bacon, I'm using regular bacon. It's uncured with no antibiotics. So I'm going to show you a trick here. Turkey bacon is leaner. This is still a good option, and we will manage the grease. We need a bell pepper, an onion. Mine's a little bit larger than the recipe calls for, so we'll probably only use half. Mushrooms, some egg whites, a dozen of eggs, and I already washed my potatoes. Over here, I have some of the supplies that I need. So I have a few sheet pans. I have three. One is for the potatoes and mushrooms, and then the other two are for the bacon, and I will come back to that. I have my measuring cup and whisk for the eggs and egg whites, my pan, and then my seasonings here. So this little guy, because I'm using regular potatoes and not the little potato company that comes with a seasoning packet, I did some of the pulley whistle P-dub rub, dried parsley, and garlic powder in here. So this is going to season the potatoes and mushrooms. And then this is the seasoning from the recipe that's going to get whisked into the eggs, because we like to season every step as we go. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare the bacon to go into the oven. This is how I prefer to cook bacon. It's less mess than on the stovetop. And what I'm doing for this is I'm using two sheet pans. One, you'll see, has the wire rack. This is what the bacon is going to cook on. And then this one, I'm going to, when I pull the bacon out of the oven, I'm going to lay it on some paper towels to help drain off some more of the grease. The rack that it sits on will help that grease drip down, and then I'm going to pull it off the rack before it cools and get some more of that grease to come off. Okay, so I just lined that sheet pan with the paper towels and set it aside for now. And now I'm going to open up my pack of bacon and pull this out onto the rack. I always keep either the trash can or a bucket with a garbage bag nearby to throw my trash into, whether that is plastics like the wrapping of the bacon or my produce scraps. So I'm just laying these strips right next to each other. They're going to shrink when they cook, so they can lay nice and tightly together to fit them all on. And in fact, I keep them off to one side, and I will show you when I have it all together, so that if I run out of room one direction, I still have enough space going the other direction. So I flip the camera here, you can see what I mean. So I know I'm going to run out of space. I'm going to lay that guy there. I'm going to push these a little bit closer together, tighten them up all the way to the edge. If they overlap a little bit, that's okay too. And just keep them nice and tightly together. Lay that guy there for now. All right, so you can see they all fit very nicely. Now I'm going to set the oven to 425, and rather than waiting until it's preheated, I'm just going to go ahead and throw that bacon in. And then once it comes to preheated, then I will check, see how far along they are, and set my timer. Okay, for the next part of this, we're going to clean the mushrooms and cut them, cut the onion and the bell pepper. So what you're going to need is a cutting board, a sharp knife, a large mixing bowl. We're going to toss everything together with some oil and seasonings in here, and then it'll go on the third sheet pan. So let's do that. Okay, since mushrooms are absorbent, we don't want to run them under water. They will soak up that water. So all I'm going to do is take a paper towel, and over top of my trash bin, I'm going to brush off that dirt into the bucket. You can use a damp paper towel to do this if you want to, Really, we just want to get all of the big pieces of dirt off of the mushrooms and brush them clean before we use them. Okay, so now look at how I have this set up. I have my clean mushrooms here. Sometimes I'll put them across the top so I have this space to work, but have them off to one side of my cutting board as I throw them around. I did use a damp paper towel. It does work better, in my opinion, to get them cleaned up. I have space on my cutting board yet to work. You can also keep them off the side of the cutting board so you have the whole thing to work. And then I have my bowl here where they're going to go once I cut them. I do use the stems of these button mushrooms. They're getting roasted. They're going to cook long enough. Sometimes they can be a little woody. And in that case, if I come across any, this was a really good pack. If I come across any stems that appear they're going to be tougher, or they have a lot of dirt on them that's really clinging to kind of the root of the mushroom, I will just break that off and not use it. But like I said, this was a really good pack of mushrooms. They all look like they're going to be just fine to use. So we're going to also use the caps and the stems. Let's check on the bacon. The oven just got to preheated, so you can see it's starting to render the fat, but we are not yet cooking. So we are going to go ahead, close that oven door, and we're going to set the timer. We're going to start with 15 minutes. So that way we can check it. I would rather check it and not have it be done and go longer than to set it for too long. We can't take it back, right? We can always cook it for longer until it reaches the point we're looking for. But once it's cooked too far, we can't take it back. So always start low if you're not sure. Okay, so the way that I cut these, guys, is I start with my cap and tilt it on its side. And I'm kind of working backwards here, and I cut that stem off, and I will set the stems to the side for now. So now my cap is laying nice and flat. So I will cut that in half, and this one I'm going to cut into quarters, just like that. So I want all of my pieces to be roughly the same size. So as you can see, we have some that are small and some that are quite large, and we will have to cut them accordingly so that they're roughly the same size as what we have here. So this one will probably get cut in half. This one might be in even more pieces than 4, okay? Okay, so now if we gather up these stem pieces, a couple of these, like this one, I'm gonna cut in half, but the rest of them are all roughly the size that we need. Obviously we have some little smaller bits in here. That's okay. We're just gonna toss them all into the bowl. They will be just fine. Next up, we're gonna cut the onion. Like I said in the beginning, this is a little bit bigger than what we actually need. So we're gonna cut it in half and only use half. So very carefully, take your knife, get that started, and push from the top. Don't have your hand below. Cut that in half. Have your garbage bucket handy so that you have some place to go with the skins. We're gonna cut, I'm cutting the ends off this time, both of them. Scooping up my excess. So I'm just taking, my blade is all the way down against the board. So when I put my hand here, I'm not going to cut myself, right? And then we're gonna take this and find a spot to peel. I don't want this on here, so I am going to find that layer and take that layer off, okay? And then from here, again, we want sizes about the same as the mushrooms, maybe a little bit smaller, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So we're just gonna run our knife through, keeping those fingers tucked back, press, rock it down through. Okay, once we have all of the chunks this way, we're going to turn it and work perpendicular to the lines we just made. And some of these pieces don't look so great, right? I'm going to pull those out. That happens. It's nature. You know, I don't know what causes it. I am a plant person, but I do not know onions that well. But it's all right. You know, the onion is good otherwise. I'm just going to pull some of these pieces out. And remember, it's getting cooked at a very high temperature. Next is going to be that bell pepper. So the way I like to do this is go from the top down along one side, trying to get as close as I can to keep that rib intact. I'm going to take off the bottom. And now I can see where those ribs are, and I'm going to take off the sides as close to those ribs as possible so that I can keep this centerpiece intact and throw the whole thing out. Then when I come back piece to piece, I can take the end of my knife, run it right along there, and pull that out. So just cleaning them up a little bit, again, being very careful where your fingers are in relation to the knife. If you have any soft spots on your pepper, go ahead and trim those off. Okay, so I'm also going to scrape out some seeds. So what we do here is, again, keeping it about the same size as our mushrooms and our onion. I'm going to make some vertical cuts, some long cuts. I'm going to take those, I'm going to turn them and run my knife perpendicular. You can cut these as big or as small as you want to. We are going to roast them, so the smaller cuts will be more likely to burn than if we were just sauteing these. So that's why I'm leaving them a little bit bigger. And I'm just throwing everything into that large mixing bowl with the onions and the mushrooms. Okay, last thing to go into the bowl are our potatoes. So what we want to do is we want to inspect our potatoes. Sometimes you'll come across spots like this. It's still okay. When we get to that chunk, you'll see how I'm going to cut these up. We'll remove that piece. If you want to go ahead and remove it ahead of time, you may. But for the most part, like that, I'm not going to worry about. I'm going to leave that in. You'll see when I cut into this one that it runs a little bit deeper. It's not a superficial blemish. So I am going to remove that, and I'm going to look and see that runs pretty deep into that potato. Right, so we're going to cut another chunk, and now we have all of it out, right? I can cut these ends off if I want to, and I think I will, and just remove that piece. So now we have a perfectly good potato, right? Sometimes you just have to cut those blemishes out. It's no harm, okay? And then, so this, and maybe you can see how thick that is. We're just gonna cut this in half lengthwise, turn it, and again, cut those nice chunks here, scoop that up, throw that. Okay, so now it's time for the eggs and the egg whites. I'm going to start with the egg whites here. We want about 2 cups of egg whites. And I think I might be a little bit short today. Might be close. Close and a little short. That's okay. Doesn't have to be exact. Keep that trash bin handy so that as you crack your eggs, you have somewhere to go with those shells. Okay, so to the eggs and the egg whites, I'm adding in 3 teaspoons of the pulley whistle P-Dub rub, which is equal to 1 tablespoon. I'm doing 1 tablespoon of dried parsley and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. So we're going to dump that in and just whisk it all together. You just want to get everything nice and combined and get those eggs broken up. Okay, let's check on that bacon. I did do an extra 5 minutes, and this can be to your liking, right? So I like mine a little bit crispier, so it's gonna get added into the eggs. So that is pretty much how I like it. We're gonna pull that out and set that on our paper towel lined sheet pan. Okay, so with a pair of tongs, I am pulling that bacon off of the rack and placing it. I'm actually flipping it over so that more of that grease comes off of there. Okay, to our bowl. Now I am using some of that bacon grease. I carefully drained it into a metal measuring cup. Make sure if you're going to do that, use metal or glass, and be aware it is going to be hot. But you can certainly use olive oil like the recipe calls for. You can use butter if you're able to use butter. I am dairy free, so I cannot use butter. So I'm going to measure out a few tablespoons of that grease. There we go. And then remember, I have my seasonings measured out. P-Dub rub, parsley, and dried parsley and garlic powder. If you are using the little potato company, use the seasoning packets that come with the potatoes. So sprinkle that all over and then give it a good toss. Make sure everything is coated with your oil or whatever fat you were choosing and your seasonings. Okay, so now we're going to take that and this last sheet pan, dump it all on there. Just make sure that you take that mound and you make it all nice and even. Spread it all the way out to the corners for even cooking. I still have my oven at 425. You can bump that up to 450. That is fine as well. So just like that, we're gonna go in the oven. We're gonna set this for about 20 minutes, turn it, give it a good stir, and then another 20 minutes. Okay, what I wanna show you here with the potatoes, you can get these as crispy as you like them. I'm gonna let them go a little bit longer yet. They've been in almost an hour, which I know is a long time, guys, but like I said, I like them crispy. The smaller you cut your pieces, the faster they will cook. But what I'm doing when I stir them is I'm taking my metal spatula backwards, right? So this is the top side. I'm turning it over so that I can scrape underneath all of the good stuff and flipping it over, exposing what hasn't been cooked yet, and giving it a good turn. All right, so making sure I get everything loosened up from the tray, getting it all flipped around. And then you'll see I have kind of a mound of potatoes and onion and mushroom. So now I want to just spread that back out. And I can put it back in the oven. So it is important to stir this every 20 minutes as you cook. One, so that you are checking the doneness before it goes too far. And two, so you can expose the pieces that have not gotten color yet, have not got crisped up yet, and get those to be nice and crispy as well, just like everything else. Okay, so final steps for our egg bake with potatoes. I already chopped up the bacon, so I just stacked those slices and ran my knife through to get some of these little bits. I'm going to scrape my pan of potatoes into my cast iron. My cast iron is greased a little bit with some bacon fat. Again, use whatever pan that you like. Grease it however you prefer. I'm just going to dish that up in here. Okay, and then the final step, I'm going to give my eggs one last quick stir and pour that in here. Making sure all the seasonings come with. Oops. Too far, too far. I'm shaking this to see if it is done. This is not a technical way to check the doneness, but you will know if it is still uncooked or not. So taking a look over here, see a little bit of wet spot on the top, but overall it is firmly set when I jiggled it. It's not like it was moving all the way around. So for this, I like to use sort of like a utility knife. It is a longer but thinner blade, and this particular one has a little bit of a serrated edge to it, so that makes it easier to get through the crust of that egg dish and any of the crunchy things on the inside, the bacon, the crunchy potatoes, and all that. So you can see there in the center it was a little bit underdone, but just at the very top layer. So to check on that for yourself, stick a knife in there and see if it comes out clean, or if any more liquid egg rises from where you stuck your knife in, and that'll indicate whether you need a couple more minutes or not. I'm not worried about this at all because they are pasteurized eggs, for one, and two, I'm going to be reheating this to consume it. So I know that I will be okay. Like I said, it is the majority of the way cooked through. That little bit is not going to hurt. So then I'm just using my metal spatula to get in here for these pieces. I cut it into 8 equal pieces. I leave out in the fridge what I need for the week, and I just label and freeze the rest of it. If you are a big eater, you can cut bigger pieces and make it 6 servings, whatever makes the most sense for you and your personal needs.